Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Craig!
Jeff, is that you?
It's me! I'm back!
I thought you retired.
No.
What's going on?
No. Rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated, I think.
Oh. Yeah, I thought I was going to have to cobble together like random co-hosts.
Well, you know,
forever.
I kind of thought that at first too. So I was like, man, I just need a break. I need a break from everything. I need a break. It's too much. Everything's too much. And then, you know, Sarah, God bless her, was like, no, you need to keep doing the podcast. She's like, that's good for you. You should keep doing that. Like, okay. Twist my arm. I'll twist my arm.
Sarah's trying to angle her way into the podcast. I know her game.
She asks me every week, is this the week? Is this the week that you have me on the podcast? And I'm like, no. So at some point, I guess I'm gonna have to make good on that. I don't know. Maybe we need to finally get off our asses and do the whole, monetize the podcast thing and do some special episodes, and then have our significant others tell embarrassing stories about us. That would sell subscriptions, right?
Yeah. Like if we get Amanda to talk on a podcast, that we better get money out of that, and she'll ask for money for that for sure.
Oh, totally. I know Sarah has this dream of coming on the podcast and talking about Real Housewives with Amanda. So yeah, I don't know. That's not really my bag, but you know,
so they have to give Amanda several glasses of wine before she will be willing to do that.
Make Sarah a couple of Cosmos. That's her favorite drink, and
both those
we could probably just get out of the way at that point.
Yep, exactly. Totally fine. I've watched some of the ones, so I would know who some of these people are. And welcome to Podcast versus Everyone, episode 183. I'm Craig Powers. And with me back again to talk about Real Housewives, what we're always here to talk about, your favorite Real Housewives podcast and your favorite Real Housewives of New Jersey expert, Jeff Nusser. Welcome back, Jeff.
I know you can't say as always anymore because now the streak has been broken. I almost did.
In my head, I was like, don't say it. You ruined me, Jeff.
Almost as always. Almost as always. Jeff. Okay, but I do have to say, like, last week's show with Emma was fantastic. Like, I had so much fun, listening to that. And I know that part of it is, that I know Emma, right? So listening to her and you and talk to each other, like it's, it's my friend talking on the podcast, my two friends. So it's like, obviously that was entertaining for me, but I hope everybody else enjoyed it too. Cause it was, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it sounded like you had a lot of fun making it.
When everyone heard your voice at the start, saying hi, Craig. Their shoulders slumped in their car, and they're just like, true. "Damn it!" Thought Emma was
like, "Shit, man! I thought Emma was taking over this whole thing." No, Emma's got her hands full running the website now. So,
and she truly is running the website.
She is.
Like Jeff and I are like, she'll ask me a question here or there, but like that is it. Like I don't even know what's going on most of the time. Like, Jeff is not doing a goddamn thing. It's exactly what he wanted. Emma has taken it. What I wanted. She got Steven to write again. Like, she's crushing it. Apparently, she just asks nicer. People actually want to listen to her. Like, so it's good. She's editing Bryce's 14,000 word posts. Like, it's great. Just
it's so true.
Should have had a young person doing this shit all along.
I know.
Just get the young people. Blogging is a young person's game.
It absolutely is. It was funny. Like, I've done it for so long that I kind of thought, like, there's a point where you can't imagine yourself not doing it, right? Like, you're just like, I mean, I was with this thing from the very beginning, and we're talking like the very, very, very beginning. Like, I emailed, God, who was it back then? I don't know. This is like, late spring 2008. And I emailed, I think, Peter Bean, who was the guy in charge of Burnt Orange Nation at the time, and he was kind of in charge of the SB Nation blogs. And I want to say, like, there were like under, I don't know, maybe like around 100 college blogs. That was it. Or maybe less. I don't even remember, man. It was not very many. And there wasn't a WSU blog. And so I was like, hey man, I do this thing over here with the basketball team. And, are you looking for a WSU site? And they were like, back in the day of SB Nation, sure. It's like, that's like, kind of how they did stuff. Sure, why not? And so, so like we, created this thing from scratch. Back then, it really was just a blog, like truly like the way that we remember blogs initially, which is just like, a single page with like words straight down the page. And like to get it to jump to a new page, I had to insert a little thing that said continue story, because I could actually put the whole story on one page.
When we said, you literally back then would say below the break. And it's funny if you go back to those posts, it just says below the break and then there's no break. And then just keeps no break going. Anymore. It makes no fucking sense now.
I know. And, so, like truly this thing has been, Cougs Center has been my baby since, we launched in August 2008. And I can quite literally say that I don't think there was a day in my life since August 2008 that I didn't do some kind of work or think in some degree or stop by the site or leave a comment or check on traffic or what, like, I mean, truly like something every single day. And eventually just got to a point where I was like, I've been doing this for a long time and I'm like, I need a break, man. I was so worn out doing so much writing, covering stuff, and I just need a break. And I was like, hey, who wants to do this? And Emma was like, I think I want to do it. And I was like, all right, okay, let's do this. And like you said, man, she has just picked it up and run with it. I'm thrilled, for what's going on. I'm leaving the door open for maybe, coming back and doing something at some point with that, has to do with managing or whatever. But I'm not counting on it, man. She's killing it. And, I'll probably do a little bit of writing here and there. I haven't really felt up to that yet. But I am getting the itch a little bit. Like I was itching to write after, we'll get to basketball eventually. I was kind of itching to write after the Utah game because I was so like bummed out and whatever about that game. But, so I will still scratch that itch. The podcast isn't going anywhere. In fact, we would love to expand this endeavor. We've talked about a lot. So hopefully we'll get on that at some point. So I'm proud of Emma. I'm thrilled for Cougs Center, and I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to be better for everyone.
Yeah. I kind of felt bad when you first, brought this up to me. It was originally you were going to take a step away from the podcast for a little bit. And I was like, yeah. And I in my mind, I'm like, well, if he leaves for a couple months, I don't want to shut it down for a couple of months. I don't but there's a lot of y'all like come up to me and tell me you love listening to it. Thank you. All that stuff. And it's great to hear that stuff. And so now it's not just, I get to talk to my friend. Now people actually listen to it and they want to hear about it, and people get mad at us if we don't record episodes. So I kind of felt bad. It was like, That's really good, Jeff. That's good for you.
Yeah.
Can you send me the podcast the podcast recording password so I can keep doing this?
Yeah. And I definitely mixed and edited last week's podcast for you guys because there was no way you were going to be able to do that. So
nope.
But no, I'm glad to be back doing this. It's one of the highlights of my week, sitting down and talking with you about the Cougs and whatever else. And so, I'm glad I still have this, and I'm not quitting cold turkey. I don't think I could do that. Too much time doing that. So
yeah, but poor Sarah would just have to listen to all your thoughts about Wazoo all the time.
It's so
constantly.
True. It's so true. Like, she already won't sit in the room with me. So during games, because I'm going nuts. And I'm stressing her out because I'm yelling at the TV. She tried to, what game did she try? She tried to sit down with me for a little while during the Utah game.
No.
Which was, as it turns out, was not a good game to try and sit down and watch with me. No. Like, it's not just that we lost the way we lost, and I was like pulling my hair out, and so I tried to convince her that was just some unfortunate timing, that was the one that she chose to try and sit down with me on, but she wasn't buying it. She wasn't buying it.
Yeah. All right. Well, since you're back, we gotta dive right back in. We will talk about hoops in a little bit, but I know that something's probably a more popular topic right now, not necessarily popular, but commonly discussed, is the transfer portal. And that opened up, we all felt it at this big, huge hole in the universe opened up this week. And it was that day it opened was just beyond anything. Like signing day, you kind of expect most of everything that has happened already, but transfer portal day, it was just, you're on Twitter and it's just name after name after name on WSU, on every fucking team in the country, 7 to 10 players, you're thinking every single time for all day long. Bowl teams, it doesn't even matter, successful teams, it doesn't matter. Just constant. And it's been, and then it's been a steady stream after that of just more guys entering the transfer portal. It's funny, you always make fun entering the transfer portal. It's literally just putting your name on a spreadsheet, but
right.
It's more fun to say that entering the portal.
Yes, they
but yeah, portal. No surprise, WSU, obviously given the coaching changes, staff changes, WSU also losing its defensive coordinator, Brian Shaw. So we knew there was going to be some changes. But yeah, so WSU so far is how many? At least seven enter the portal. Some of the big names, Dejan Stribling, Donovan Ollie, you have, we had a couple guys, that didn't play a ton, but, Eric Wilder, let's see, who are the other ones? Adrian Shepard, Gabriel Lopez, Gavin Bartiel, Justin Lorenz. And then, already we had seen Xavier Ward, Travion Brown, and, Javensly Bazil. Now, Xavier Ward, that seems obvious. He wasn't going to see the field. He was third string quarterback. He wasn't going to see the field. Travion Brown, what we've seen now, yesterday, Francisco Mauigoa entered the transfer portal.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, but that was this morning.
That was this morning. Francisco Mauigoa has now entered the portal. So Travion Brown, who in some, it may have transferred because Francisco was going to was taking his job. Now they're both in the portal, which they could come. Well, Brown could come back if he wants to. We obviously saw Mo come back, but it's it's just wild. It's wild that this steady stream of players that are leaving. If those of us that followed college basketball closely were not surprised by this, because we saw it in the spring.
Right.
And really, in college basketball, it was a much higher percentage of players on the rosters that were leaving. You know, if you look at WSU, it was like a third of the roster entered the portal. And so, and then you fill it in with another, you know, the same amount of guys. But yeah, this, and now it's, you look at this and you assume these guys are leaving. If they end the portal, you just kind of assume they're leaving. What now do you see are holes in WSU that they're going to now have to work to fill with through the portal? And what are they going to need to be able to do that, considering the world of NIL right now? Yeah.
I don't think so. Obviously, okay, so we're talking positions of need. Right now, it sure feels like linebacker now. You went from feeling like linebacker was a super deep position group to now going, well, holy shit, Henley's gone, Mauangoa's gone, and he was a guy that guy's a legit star. Like, he's going to be the first team all Pac-12 type guy, or would have been a first team all Pac-12 guy there at that middle linebacker spot. He's an absolute stud. And, you know, the reporting from Coug fan is that, you know, perhaps Miami, is a destination to kind of, you know, putting 2 and 2 together. His brother has committed to play at Miami. Miami's got a huge NIL collective down there handing out money. So not a huge, and then, you know, you got Joe Salavea is down there. Of course, you know, recruiting, Samoa. So not a shock that he would, you know, leave and go there once I kind of knew the story. But when I first saw the news, I was like, oh shit, you know? So losing him hurts really bad. Travion Brown, like you mentioned, I don't know, maybe if his reason for going had to do with playing time, maybe there's a path for him to come back. But, you know, those were your 2 top middle linebackers. And so they're gone. Or at least as of the moment they're gone. And then wide receiver is taking a hit. I don't know that I'm too broken up about the departure of Donovan Ollie. I like him. I like him as a receiver, but it seems pretty clear that Jake Dickert has a type that he's envisioning for his outside receivers, and Ollie doesn't really fit that. He wants guys who are sort of long and fast. And Ollie's a lot like, you know, some of the guys that Mike Leach had. I mean, and Ollie was a Mike Leach recruit, I think. He's a lot like some of the guys that Leach had playing out there, you know, your Des Patman types, your Vince Maley types, you know, just kind of the big, thick guys, you know, who can work in possession. You're not really trying to stretch the field with a pure air raid. Diggert wants to stretch the field. So it doesn't surprise me that Donovan Ollie, is trying to find a different spot. You know, it's a bummer, but whatever. Dejon Stribling's the one that bums me out a little bit more, cause he had such a nice freshman year. This year, you know, just for whatever reason, couldn't really get on track. Wasn't doing what they want him to do at outside receiver, or they just decided that maybe they're better off they move him inside. But whatever the case was, he got moved around a lot. And that doesn't ever feel good for a guy unless you're moving him around a lot and he's still catching a bunch of balls, which he wasn't doing. So it's like, it just kind of felt like maybe just the fit wasn't there. And I think we all kind of thought maybe after last year he might go. He's a kid from Hawaii, was a Rolovich recruit. Maybe with all the offensive coaches that moved on, maybe he goes too. He stayed, so we were all thrilled. So I'm not shocked that he's going now. I still think there's some potential there, but, you know, it kind of bums me out. At wide receiver, I think the issue just is numbers. Like I don't know who's, at outside receiver, you're talking Leighton Smithson, right? True freshman who played really well this year, but, still real young. You're talking, Cyan Nunnally, who I want to say is a sophomore, but, did some nice things getting open, but has a very difficult time securing the football. And then it's like outside receiver. I don't know who else there is. So that's obviously a position of need. They're going to need to hit in the portal as well.
Yeah. And otherwise, and obviously you kind of hope they can, bring in some offensive linemen.
Yeah.
That would be good.
I mean, the good news is we didn't lose any of the guys who are currently playing, right? So, I mean, Wilder, was a guy who, of course, he's mid 3-star recruit. You want him to, you'd like to see a guy like that stick around, develop.
Yeah,
but
big
also,
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but also it's like, I don't know that you're dying with him moving on, and none of the guys that you counted on this year. I mean, you're graduating one guy, right? Which is
right.
Stevens. So almost everybody's back. You feel good about that. So yeah, of course you'd like to add some talent there, no doubt. If you can get some help there, that's fantastic. But at least we're not.
Yeah, and the numbers.
At least we're not dealing with attrition.
The numbers there are still lots. It's going to take some adjusting that we were so used to in the Leach years. We carry like 15 or more offensive linemen on scholarship.
Oh,
and
man,
we don't have that
20 to 25.
Anymore. Yeah, and we don't have that anymore.
25 guys.
And so it's just, you always like feel uncomfortable because it's like, oh, like they're just throwing darts blind and whatever one sticks, like, but now we're not doing that. So yeah, those guys will definitely have to improve because I was glaringly, although I'll say I've seen some, grading and stuff I've seen some grading around this, and I kind of believe it is that they actually ran block pretty well. It was just their pass protection was awful.
Yep.
And so that's where they're going to have to improve. And they did sort of, a lot of these guys blocking was like the way they come out of their stance, everything, the way they block at the air raid is different. Cause even when you're running, like it's a little bit different and you have the gaps versus with the run and shoot. So maybe one more year of those reps can help them out there. But yeah, but now it's when it comes to bringing guys in, we've seen the numbers that Cougar Collect, some of the numbers that Cougar Collective has shared, which the numbers don't really, they recently ran a matching drive, and I think it brought in about $70,000. But Robbie Tobeck recorded a message and said that WSU needs at least $3.5 million a year for NIL. Mm-hmm. That's his estimate. Obviously he's working with me, but I don't even think that's an exaggeration, to be honest, because that's $3.5 million, not just for football. That's for all the sport. That's for men's basketball. That's for women's basketball. That's for everyone. So yeah, I believe that. And I think that it's likely that the Cougar Collective, I don't even know if the Crypto Cougs thing is still going on or whatever. But let's just say the Cougar Collective is obviously the one that has, been able to be prominent. And so, Cougar Collective, it doesn't seem they're anywhere close to that right now.
No.
And so, and we know from, I know the basketball team, they weren't going to they didn't really have the money to bring back like FA. It was really like you weren't going to match like what even he could get some other places. You were kind of hoping that he just wanted to come back and stuff like that. And so we've heard from WSU, that they don't really have like the coffers that some of these ones, the rumors around what Penix is getting to come back, and you had to assume that he was getting a big, cause he was at least a second round, grade and probably going to make a couple $1 million next year in the NFL. And he's coming back to play at UW, and someone is dropping, they probably cobbled together a few $1 million to give to him to come play. And there's no way WSU can do that at the moment.
No.
Because if you talk about
it's the same problem we've always had, which is we've got lots of willing small donors, right? So you go to the Cougar Collective website and it's like, join the 1890 club. I was looking at it tonight. It's great. Like I think that's awesome. It's, hey, join for $18.90 a month. Okay, fine. I will probably join for $18.90 a month because that's something I can definitely do. I'm a fucking teacher. right? Like, I'm not joining for the $100 a month. Like, that's not really something that I'm interested in doing. Fine. But it's like, the problem isn't me or people like me. The problem is we don't have a bunch of, this is going to sound so crass and so misogynistic, but the big, blank swingers who want to go and throw their money around to show everybody how important they are. We don't have those guys who, run around cutting $1 million, $2 million checks just because they want to see their team win. Right? We don't have that. And, Pat Chun has been struggling with that for years, right? Like it's it's in our DNA to be tightwads. But beyond that, we just like a lot of schools, a lot of land grant schools, you're not really producing the kinds of graduates that go out and make, tens of millions of dollars a year, right? Like we're not producing lawyers. We are finally producing doctors, but even the doctors we're producing are not necessarily the kinds of doctors, right? That are going to give back, $1 million a year or something, right? We're producing, and this was part of the mission, right? We're producing doctors to go, serve in underserved areas, particularly rural areas, right? Like that's the mission of the Elson Floyd Medical School. So like, I don't know how this gets rectified. I have no idea how this gets better. I have no idea where, $2.5 million a year comes from on something like this, right? Because you have to have people who believe that, yes, it's good to just give, $2.5 million a year to athletes. And man, I don't know. I don't know. And I think Tobeck is absolutely right. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like you said, I just don't know I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how we find it. I truly don't know. And we really need some kind of benefactor who wants to, just for the fun of it, try to pay players to be, make his teams good or her teams good. But, we've never had that. So I don't know.
Well, and here's what I think ultimately might benefit WSU is that it kind of looks like the big guys are getting the bulk of the money, and then the kind of mid-tier guys are not getting that money. Right. Like they're the quarterbacks, the 5-star guys. Like if Michael Penix Jr. got $3 million, do you really think they're spending that much more? Like are the UW boosters, are they giving a ton of money to a bunch of other guys in the program? Like how much money is there for this? So if one guy's getting $3 million, I see, which honestly, like the year he had and what you expect him to do next year, it's not surprising that boosters, because these boosters, instead of giving it, like we talked about before, in a lot of schools, boosters were giving kids this money, like not maybe money, at least some money before. Like this is not new to them. This is above board now, and they can like claim it on their taxes even, I think. But it's like, 3 million, but is like your wide receiver 2 getting, what does he get? It's not that much. It's just to add up to the 3.5 million. There's a lot of different players. Now, I think that number 3.5 million is especially, like, it's more on, if you want us to be good, like this is what it looks like. Now, this is where the danger is like, is WSU going to have to cobble together, guys that basically how they have had to do in recruit, like high school recruiting a lot of the time is find guys that no one else wants and hope they can, find those diamonds in the rough. But if you have that $3.5 million, WSU can then be a player in the market and maybe get guys that they normally couldn't get before. And that's where it changes. But like we've said, it just seems like, man, something has to change in the WSU alumni base if they're going to be able to do that, because it's just not. And it sucks because WSU kind of, like, we've seen in the last 8 years that WSU could still play. Like they upgraded. They had a shitty time of it, They upgraded the facilities that brought them at a level at least on par for a bit ahead of some of their peers, but now at the very least they're on par with a lot of their peers in terms of their football facilities. And they've been able to use that to kind of, and then bring in coaches that are looking for inefficiencies, and they've been able to use those things so they can still look for inefficiencies, but still kind of recruit that base level, like mid 3-star guy that has been coming to WSU. The worry is that if WSU doesn't have the money in NIL, they can no longer. They're no longer. It becomes the same as when they were behind in facilities. They're no longer meeting with some of their peers. They're falling further behind their peers that they're already behind in other areas, such as like location, and so they're already falling further behind. So WSU basically needs to have a certain few $1 million to get back up to. It's like building that goddamn football complex again. It's like building that IPF that they've just raised $3 million to build. You're almost like, we would have been better off spending $3 million on NIL.
Just cash.
Like, hey, all those people, can you convert those donations over to Cougs Collective real quick?
Yeah.
Because now it's like, in this era now, I think we have seen the end of the ridiculous facility era, because I guarantee a lot of these donors, instead of building the facility and hoping that attracts the player, wait, I could just give the money I'll give it to the Cougs Collective, and they'll give it to the player. Then the player will come. And also, if they don't come, they don't get the money. So I haven't spent the money if the player doesn't come. But if you're Phil Knight and you've spent fucking $1 billion on facilities at Oregon, it worked. It definitely worked. Like, all their fucking sports are good now. But also, that didn't make the players come. Like, because we've seen certain Oregon coaches have better, success than others. Now they could be like, yeah, like, I could give you more money to come to my thing. And they have, so I think like the end of where college facilities are better than professional facilities, that era is over. But, and so, cause that money's go direct, but WSU didn't build that football facility with donor money. You could say they got that donation, which they have not, they won't receive until the donor dies, as part of it. But they built that with bonds and expected TV revenue.
Yep.
And now the IPF fundraising was impressive, but they're going to have to take that energy and which is hard for the actual university. And you've seen I'm going on a rant here, but if you see the university, I think, was a little hesitant to dive into the NIL fundraising at first, but now you're seeing Pat Chun and Jake Dicker pop up on the Cougs Collective stuff, and so you could see that they're involved in it now. They know it's important because it does directly detract from the CAF. There's no doubt about that. Like, people are going to make decisions about where their money goes, and even if they're not taking away their donation from the CAF, that donation that maybe you could have convinced them to give to the CAF to bolster what they give, now maybe you're hoping they give it to the collective. So there is a bit of a fight there, but I think it's good to see that maybe they'll come together now, because truly, like, what we're going to see in the portal, that this could be a bit of a scary time if WSU doesn't have the money to like bring players in. So it's going to be interesting to watch over the next few months. And I know it's for basketball, it's just like it's a whole new thing. It's kind of exhausting as a fan. I get why people hate it, but you also have the part where the players have been probably should have been earning money all along. And this is, and because universities won't commit to paying them, this is our kind of next best thing. And that's where you got like this wild west that we have now. But,
how about we just,
that was a really long rant. Yeah.
How about universities just start banning them? Like, maybe we could do that. we don't have to worry about this anymore. Maybe we could just, if you don't want people transferring every off season, maybe, I don't know, make them an employee and have them sign a contract. I don't know. Like, there are a lot of solutions here, Craig. There are a lot of solutions, but nobody wants to step over that particular threshold, which I think is the one that makes the most sense in the end. I think we'll get there in the end, but for now, it's, the wild, wild west. I think Tobeck makes a good point. That, he's like, look, the CAF raised, like 30 million last year. And he's like, we don't need 30 million. We need like 3, it's
Yep.
like, when you put it in those terms, it kind of makes sense. And, a lot of what the CAF raises is, the sort of the mandatory seat donations, right? Which you are well familiar with when it comes to season tickets. So I think that's, the biggest chunk of where that money comes from. But, and it's, Tobeck, again, we're still doing the nickel and dime thing though, right? Like Tobeck says, I'm looking at this story on Coug Fan, and, he says, if every season ticket holder was a member at $18.90 a month, then we'd make our $3 million a year. And it's like,
but,
I mean, yes,
a lot of the season ticket,
I
mean, there's a lot of the season ticket holders in the stadium. Like there's either no seat requirement or it's like $50 a year. So like you're asking them $18 a month is a lot more than $50 a year.
Right.
And so it's just, you're asking them to like add on a donation, which is about 5 times what they're already donating.
Right.
And plus a lot of the, it's for many people, when they buy the WSU tickets, they see the donation as just part of the price and they don't really think of it as a donation.
Right. Right. Yep.
And that's a different,
somehow we
mentality.
got to get people. Yeah. Somehow we got to get people to do it. And look, I'm absolutely like, yes, people can give $20 a month, give your $20 a month. I can give $20 a month. I'll do it. Okay, great. I'll do it. But it's like, that's not going to get us where we need to go. Like, it's just not. And we need.
Well, yeah, I see people saying, if all 24,000 WSU license plate holders, if all 45,000 WSU Alumni Association, well, people paid the $30 for the WSU license plate. That's what they paid for. It's not the same thing. And that goes to the Alumni Association, by the way. And then the Alumni Association, that a lot of them are just paid a lifetime fee and they're not like paying anymore. Or even if they, pay per year, it's not, it's like a third or a fifth of what you pay to, of what $20 a month would be.
Yep.
So you could say that we would definitely hit our number if everyone did that. But we've also seen there's nothing in life, like people said, Twitter would make tons of money if everyone paid the $8. There's nothing in life where you're getting 100%.
Right.
100% buy-in.
Well, especially with giving. With giving, it's if we're getting 10%, 15%. I mean, I'm not.
There's
not
no
fundraising,
there's
but
no
I know that the number is real small.
There's no fundraising organization, no nonprofit that projects their budget if every possible person that could donate to us, every highly engaged person in this whatever matter.
Right.
Donated X amount, then we'd be good. You just can't think of it that way because it's not realistic.
No.
Now it's fun to say, but it's not realistic. You're not getting, because our podcast, we don't reach all 45,000 of those people. We reach a fraction of that. And I think a lot of the people that listen to us they understand the importance of NIL, but about, the massive other chunk, a lot of them don't even know what's going on. It's like, oh, these players are leaving. This sucks. And they still have this mentality of WSU, it's fine. We just have to go find those diamonds. We'll figure out a way. WSU's always figured out a way. It's there's just, like I said before, it's just more and more levels of us that separate us from the big guys. And right, and plus we have this conference shit hanging over our head too. Like, and so it's just, this is not something where it's just like, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It's like, no, it'll come to a point when like every time we have a good player, there's a good likelihood they're just going to leave because they're going to be able to get money somewhere else. It's not even just attracting players. Like it's like they're going to leave because basketball, football, like all those players, even, it could trickle down to like, if we have nobody to give even small things to like the soccer players and the women's basketball players and the volleyball players, it may run down that far too. Because if you get the right booster at some university that really gives a fuck about like any other sport other than football, they could run shit in that sport.
Yep.
Like so if it's like, I don't want to be like fucking doom and gloom, but yeah, this is gonna be a challenge for WSU. And
yep.
And I think what the Cougar Collective is doing and kind of setting the stage for that is good.
Yes.
And yeah, if you care about this shit, like if you care about keeping players and you actually want to like I don't think like donate to NIL stuff, like the players are getting the money. Like I'm sure there's some that, the Cougar Collective has, I don't know how much of, they have to, take off to, cause they're an organization, but, you can't as a person directly give them the money. That's still, I think there has to be contracts and shit.
You kind of can,
but
I mean, you can, if you have
you're going to have a lawyer probably. Like you'll have to have someone write up a contract. So you're going to have to pay someone to do that. Unless you yourself are a lawyer, then you could probably do it. And so
it definitely seems to be smoother to go through the collective.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like if it freaks you out and you probably, and you care that much, probably good to give somebody to if you're giving money to CAF, give some to Cougar Collective too. It's just kind of the way it goes. It's kind of life we live in, guys. Like we're not going back. Like this is what it is now. We feel like if we go down to the Mountain West, you probably won't have to worry about it quite as much, to be honest.
No, you. But this is where we are. I don't know. Y'all can join me. I'm gonna join up at the 1890 level. So I don't know if we can get 100 listeners to join me. That's like almost 20 grand. Jeff, so
if we get 100% of this podcast to do it, that's almost $500 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Also, my math was a little off. We're talking like $2,000, not 20 grand. Good job.
Yeah.
Teacher.
Yeah. 100 times. No, damn it.
Damn it. We need 1,000 people to do it. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get 1,000 people to do it, Craig.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah. Something else I'm not sure we're going to get to do is, figure out who's going to play linebacker and wide receiver in the LA Bowl, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Yeah. I understand the timing of the transfer portal because it's related to the academic calendars. Like you have to let the kids have to be able to transfer to the universities. But man, if there's anything that the transfer portal has fucked up, it is the bowl games. Like it's just, yeah, WSU's got 7-8 guys, scholarship players that just won't be there, like right off the top. And we haven't even gotten to the opt-outs yet.
Yep.
Maybe does Dayon Henley play in the bowl game? I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be, it's interesting though. I don't envy the bettors and the casinos who have to figure out how this game's going to go with actually money implications. Because yeah, like you have 2 starting wide receivers, you have 2 linebackers that were heavy in the rotation that are just not going to play, and yeah, it's like, yeah, but we know that Hanauer from Fresno State, he says he's going to play. So I don't know. Like, how does that impact the bowl game? It definitely, we actually saw last year that WSU had its not transfers, but opt-outs. You had their 2 starting tackles out, and oh boy, did that have an impact. So it'll be interesting to see. What does that do you think does it impact your interest in the bowl game at all? I know that you and I are not the best barometers for this.
No.
Because we don't take the bowl games quite as seriously as other people do.
And we'll watch anything. So that's
I will watch anything. And I don't take the outcome as seriously as other people do, but I know a lot of people really do. Like, it's the Apple Cup and the bowl game are their 2 biggest games of the year. And so I've seen a lot of like people, this is really kind of a big deal for them. Like it fucks up their world that like these players don't play in the game. Last year we didn't have Max Borghi, and we didn't have Liam Ryan and Abe Lucas play in the game.
Yep.
So that people that bums them out. They want to see these players. They're like, now I don't like, people say, what about the people that travel the game and go to see it? I'm like, people that travel the game don't go for the game. I'll tell you that much. Like, especially in the mid-tier bowl games. Like, people are traveling to go to a Cougar game and have fun, go to the parties, all that stuff, and just have a good time. Like, I whenever I went, the only bowl game that I really, really wanted to, like, that I especially wanted to see the game was the Alamo Bowl. But the other ones, it was just like for fun. Like, it was just a fun trip in December. Now that's harder this year because it's like so close to when they announce, like 2 weeks away and stuff. So I'm not going this year, and I know some other people that aren't going because of that. But yeah, it's just it's interesting to that these Cubs so close to the bowl. That it's just transfer portal, then the bowl game. So we're just gonna have so many teams in bowl season that are missing. You know, Kentucky, their starting quarterback is. He's opting out. He's not playing. And you see other guys enter the transfer portal. So the teams just don't look like what they did in their final game of the season. And it's just, there's going to be an adjustment there for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm not worried about it at all. It's especially with this team, honestly. I mean, yes, losing Ollie and Stribling, you'll probably notice that, but also probably not that much. Middle linebacker, sure. Yeah, that's going to be a thing. But, for the most part, it's going to look like the same team. In theory, the offensive line is going to be there. That's good. Defensive linemen are going to be there. I mean, as we talk about all the people we're losing, let's talk about who we're not, right? Like Ron Stone is coming back. Brennan Jackson is coming back. All the, guys in the secondary are coming back, right? Like, Hicks was great this year, and Shaw Smith Wade was great. Those guys are coming back. So they'll all be there. I'm still excited. I love watching the Cougs play. It honestly doesn't much matter to me. Again, unless we're talking about a game that actually seems to have some consequence. The Alamo Bowl was one of those. But when we're talking about the LA Bowl, I'm just going to enjoy the fact that it's one more Cougar game. Fresno State should be fun. It's a real good offense, playing against our good defense. I think that's great. It should be a really fun game. It doesn't dampen my interest at all. And, I guess if there are people out there who it does, you do you. I'm not going to tell people how they should be a fan or whatever, but bowl games are silly and weird. And, even before all the opt-outs, they were silly and weird and tended to produce, very strange results. And, you can either, get all worked up. I mean, I know there are people who still get worked up about the New Mexico Bowl. And I still look back at that and go, what a dumb, weird game. Like I don't lament it. I don't think that the only thing about that game I ever lamented was the team was 6-6 going into it and they finished with a losing record. And I really wanted them to finish with a winning record. Like that was it. I don't think much else about it. So, for this, I mean, I would recommend that people maybe not think, a ton about that and maybe just enjoy it. I do have some hope that this game maybe will be a little bit more normal in terms of a bowl game because it is so close to the end of the season. They'll fair. Only have had, 3 weeks off, which is, normally it's, you're talking 4 or 5 weeks. for these games, and that's a long time, and they tend to spend a lot of time, giving practice time to younger guys. And I don't know, maybe this one will be, maybe there's a downside, maybe the development doesn't get there in the same way, but also maybe from a product standpoint, the game maybe will be a little more, the team will maybe be a little bit more at an actual normal level of performance.
Well, yeah, to that point, the one time we saw like a Mike Leach bowl game where they actually matched their, offensive output from earlier in the season was that New Mexico bowl game where they scored 35 points in the first half.
Yeah.
And that was that was like the same weekend at the LA Bowl game. It was like a December 16th, 17th type game. So that maybe there's something to that. And they're basically, you basically get just it's 3 weeks off or whatever from your last game. So it's not when you have a bye in the normal season, you have 2 weeks off. So it's not crazy different. The kids will get to go home for Christmas and all that. That's cool. Good for them. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch it. We'll preview more of it next week. And but yeah, the Cougs are going to a bowl again. Like we said, I never want to take that for granted. Who knows what could happen? We could go on another decade without one. So good to see. Good stuff. So what we're going to do now is take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about men's hoops, talk about women's hoops, talk about volleyball. And that'll all be after these words from SB Nation's sponsors that we don't even know what it's going to be. I think it depends on what you've been Googling lately.
And we're back.
We are back. So Jeff, back. It was weird last week. Emma, she didn't know if she should say "and we're back," but I just had to jump in and say it.
I did notice that. I didn't
want a disaster. But yeah, it was. She did a serviceable job with what we're drinking. With her Corona. Just setting a high standard though for you coming back on what you're going to be drinking when she has a fine Mexican beverage. So Jeff, I got to know, what are you drinking, and is it better than Corona?
What I am drinking is the Pilsifer Dry Hop New American Pilsner from Sig Brewing. I do think that qualifies as better than Corona.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's delicious. It was the dry hopping, gives it kind of a unique flavor. It was my first taste. I was like, and now that I'm almost done with it, I'm like, yeah, that's pleasant. I like that. So, and I know you're a big fan of Sig Brewing, so. Yeah, obviously. My good friend of mine is the head brewer there. So technically dry hopping, it technically doesn't impact the flavor, but it kind of does in a roundabout way in how it impacts the aroma. Okay. That makes sense. So if that makes any sense. Yeah, it does. So it doesn't add bitterness or anything to the flavor. But it does add those hop aromatics, and that is why they do it. It does in a way impact the flavor because obviously we taste things through our nose often. And so, Pilsifer, I will say I had that beer a while ago. It wasn't my favorite
to be honest, Pilsner. And I think what you're saying, you kind of that kind of weirdness at the start is what I agree with that. Like it's got kind of a weird flavor that you don't typically associate with Pilsner. Like it's got kind of this weird bite to it.
Yep.
So at least now I know that's consistent. Cause that was like a 2 years ago batch. So that is what is intended. So that's good to know. So it wasn't a mistake or anything. That's always good. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you drinking?
So forgive me if, I'm to the point where like, I feel bad if I like repeat it or something, because I'm just like going down to my cellar and grabbing stuff, and usually things that are in smaller format bottles, because I don't want to like drink a 22 ounce or 750 milliliter bottle by myself of like a barrel aged stout. So I went down, I got this adorable little can, from Westbound and Down Brewing out of Idaho Springs, Colorado. And it is a little bitty 8-ounce can, just cute as can be. I think maybe they do like, you'll see on like airplanes, they get these little cans sometimes. But it's Bourbon Barrel Louis English style barley wine, 13.2%. Not a lot of no other descriptor of the beer on the can. Very simple can, simple branding. It's white. With black lettering, just kind of some blue accents here and there. Simple as can be. Haven't taken a sip yet. Gonna go for that. Pretty solid. It's pretty hot still. Like a lot of barrel in there. A lot of barrel. I think I bought it in March. Or it was canned in March 30th. So yeah, pretty hot still, like a lot of barrel, pretty tasty. About what you would expect on the body. It's like pretty heavy body, but it's not like a maple syrup type body, that you get with some of these barley wines, but it's a good strong body. The caramel, definitely toffee notes in there, what you expect out of an English style barley wine. All around very solid. And I do love that it's only 8 ounces. So I don't have to get shit faced, drinking barley wine tonight. I mean, not that I'm opposed to that. But yeah, so Bourbon Barrel Louis, Westbound and Down in Colorado. Check it out. I'll give it a check it out. If you're in Idaho Springs, Colorado, check them out, get an adorable little can, and have some fun. So Westbound and Down, let's go. I also was drinking, of course, Wayfinder Hell, cause I love it.
It's a great beer.
Because playing the start to the Pac-12 season in men's basketball has been a bit of hell so far. Played without we know that Miles Rice and Deshaun Jackson will not be playing for the team all year, and then you add to that, Miles Rice, who is kind of basically the presumptive starting point guard, and then you have Deshaun Jackson, presumptive starting center. And then Andre Yakumovsky, kind of presumptive, probably starting 3, and then you have at least or a first man off the bench, or playing probably 50, 60, 70% of the minutes, and then you have Jay Mullins, who was probably like a 6-man if we had everyone, but had become a starter and was on fire. I said multiple times on Twitter, absolute fire. Absolutely on fire. And then he hurts his knee. So now you're going to Pac-12 play basically down 4 of your top 8, 4 of your top 7, probably more accurately, and just try to cobble it together, playing with, often lineups with 3 freshmen, and not like necessarily 3 freshmen that you thought were going to get big minutes and we're going to play crunch time minutes. So, that Oregon game, that was just, they kind of ran out of steam. Like this, Oregon's athletes just took over at one point, and WSU just didn't have the scoring to really keep up once Oregon, started scoring in bunches. they held tight when, both teams were struggling to score. But once Oregon started hitting shots and getting dunks, really, that one kind of got out of hand.
Yep. Yeah, it was, one of the things I keep coming back to is, I think about what, Bryce Hendricks wrote about early in the year, thinking about the team and their what he calls the point of attack defense, right? Like, so who's your primary ball defender, and not just like, staying with the guy who's, dribbling the ball, but like, when that guy is like trying to initiate, some kind of offense or trying to attack a part of the defense. And they just really, really struggled with Will Richardson, keeping him out of the lane. And then, the attention he was drawing was then leaving N'Faly Dante to dunk all over us. And, it was an incredibly frustrating second half, and, just an inability really to contain, Oregon's penetration, and nothing good happens when, is one thing that, Kyle Smith talks about is feet in the paint. Like that's part of his nerd ball philosophy is feet in the paint. When the other team is getting their feet in the paint, that's usually a bad sign. And that's how it turned out against Oregon. So, I don't know that, I don't know that we had any expectations that they'd go to Oregon and win that game, but, certainly a bummer that, they're with them.
Well, Oregon was missing guys too. So
yeah, Oregon was missing guys too. And, they were with them for a half and, kind of right there step for step. And then, just as you mentioned, weren't able to really keep up the pace. And that was, it was one of those games where you're like, it's a bummer and you're hoping that they would win it, but not super expectations. But then you start thinking like, okay, well, Utah, you got to get Utah, right? And Utah is, while we were losing to Oregon, they had beaten Arizona, which is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And so you're thinking,
Arizona's
okay,
not going to lose many.
Yeah. And you're thinking, all right, so you've lost to Oregon. I mean, you don't want to get off to an 0-2 start in the Pac-12. Utah's going to be at home, going to be at our place, right? We traveled to Oregon. We get Utah at Beasley. All right, this is the one. We got to get this one. And then we didn't get that one either, Craig.
Well, yeah, you have, again, Jabe Mullins is out. So again, you're out, Andre and Jabe. So, who, both specialize in a very specific thing that this coaching staff values, and what modern college basketball values is the 3-pointer. And you go out there and shoot 4 of 30 from 3, and 2 of those, I believe, came in overtime, or one of them at least. I know Justin hit one in overtime. So I think they had 3 in regulation. So 2, you have guys like Justin Powell and TJ Bamba who are 40+% 3-point shooters, TJ 50% going, TJ 1 of 6, Justin Powell 2 of 12. You don't have that, you have DJ Rodman who just, you think he's a good shooter, but he just has these stretches like this. And then it's just, you don't have, maybe Jabe Mullins will hit some, or maybe Andre will hit some, that you just fall apart from 3. And really in that game, that was the one thing they did poorly. Like a lot of the other stuff was fine. Like they rebounded well, well enough. Yeah. They defended well enough. They held, or Utah had to Utah to even get to 0.88 points per possession, had to hit a lot of fucking tough shots. Yep. Like a lot.
Lots of mid-range shots.
A lot of mid-range jumpers.
Yep.
Now you could also probably say the free throw shooting hurt WSU, especially in the second half. They really went through. I know TJ missed like 4 in a row at one point when the game was in the high leverage, but they didn't turn it over too much. They forced a lot of turnovers. They couldn't hit jumpers. And then we see shot quality. They always tweet when there's a shot quality upset, and it was a big upset. WSU, based on the quality of shots, 91% expected to win. The average expected score was, to win by 18 points in this game. To score like 87 points in this game.
Right. And that's all just making 6 more threes. Right?
6 more threes, which still, that would have been 10 of 30 from 3. It would have been a crazy shooting day.
Yes.
Like if Justin Powell was, okay, if TJ was 2 of 6 and Justin Powell was 4 of 12, that's 3 more threes. That's all they need. They're well below their averages, and that's still enough. If DJ Rodman can go 1 of 3, if, maybe we got, the other guys, it's like, okay, they missed theirs. It's fine. But like, it's just wild that 3-point shooting just totally torpedoed them. And really kind of put a day.
And yet they still should have won.
And then add to the fact we're already out 4 top guys, and then our 2 fucking best players left foul out.
Yep.
Our 2 best heading into overtime. Mo's out for the last 4 minutes. Although shout out to Mael Hamon Crespin. Like, wow, dude. Like he's looking like a player that we can actually use. Like Mael. After his first couple times through, you're like, good God. But now he's hitting some threes. He's playing better defense, like looking good. But you have him, Kamani, who also has earned himself a hell of a lot more minutes recently. And then Dylan Darling playing. You have 3 freshmen playing overtime in a game that you really need. But Mo has been so good the last 3 games, and we'll get into the game tonight as well. And then TJ had he had an off game, but still he was kind of coming on before. And we'll say he made a really dumb foul. Like if he just leaves that guy alone and lets him lay it in, good chance WSC wins.
I mean, it's almost certain, right? Like there's 4 seconds left in the game. The layup cuts it to 1. You inbound the ball, you get fouled. You're probably making. I mean, look, you're not going to assume they're making.
You might not even need to make one.
You might not even need to make them. Like you're if you can do the inbound right, you run off a couple seconds and then you get fouled. You make maybe 1 of 2. They've got like 2-3 seconds to get the ball up the floor. Like the game is over. Like there were 2 times that game was over. One was. The first one was when DJ Rodman got his layup blocked. That would have put us up. I want to say that would have put us up by 8 with like 2 minutes to go. I'm pretty sure. So I'm looking at the Ken Palm win probability. I'm pretty sure that's when we were at our peak win probability, which was 95.6% is where we were with just over 2 minutes to go. And then of course, DJ gets his shot blocked. Utah comes down and makes a bucket. And all of a sudden you're like, fuck, that's a 4-point swing. Oh yeah, we're still okay. And then we were okay. And then TJ, for whatever reason, decided to foul that guy. And it's just like, when it went to overtime, we both were like, okay, like this, like we know how this is going to end. Like this is not, there's not a happy ending here, right? We're missing so many guys. You've already won the game twice. You're not going to win it a third time. And sure enough, they didn't. And it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch because
and we still had a layup. Had a layup at the end to send it into
send it into a second overtime.
To send it into second overtime.
But again, it was you're missing so many guys, and you just at some point you're like it's just too much, and that's kind of where it was. And it was such a bummer to me because the team on so many levels played so well. They fought so hard. It was really emblematic of a Kyle Smith type performance out of the team that we've gotten so used to over the years, because the team, they just fight and they scrap and they have a good game plan and they figure out a way to go. And Utah, has played really, really well. So it's not just that win over Arizona. Like they've played well this season. They're already outperforming their Ken Palm projections. Like they're playing well. And we had them flustered and frustrated all night, and to not come away with a win was just very, very disappointing. And again, as we talk about this team and their potential postseason aspirations, like, I mean, I don't know what you expect when WSU is just not a program where you can lose that many that many of your key contributors, and still, they don't have, 4-star freshmen sitting on the bench waiting to, well, I guess we do have one sitting on the bench waiting to develop, but like we don't have, a whole bunch of those guys, just kind of sitting around waiting to jump in and save the day. We're just not able to do that. We're not that kind of program. And, it might just end up being, a bit of a lost year, and those happen sometimes in college sports. Maybe not. I'm not certainly giving up, but, and tonight, as we record tonight, they beat the crap out of Northern Kentucky, which, great, but it's like, the games that actually matter, Boise State, Utah, Oregon, didn't win any of them. And, so you just kind of go, maybe this just ain't it. And if it's not it, I don't know. I'm not going to be super broken up about it because, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got a guy with cancer.
Yeah,
you got a guy with a toe injury. You got another guy with some mysterious injury that's keeping him out all year. You got a freak knee injury that happens in practice. Like, come on. I'm just going to enjoy what I can see. And I'm not going to stress out too much about what it's not, because, it's not like it's anybody's fault. It just is what it is. And, sometimes this shit happens.
Well, and, maybe they could catch one break, and maybe refs could actually call a game, like call a foul when it happens.
That'd be
they just had to call a phantom reach-in foul in Kamani to decide the game in overtime, but they couldn't call a hip check on Dylan Darling going in for driving in for a potential layup. At the end of regulation, couldn't give him 2 free throws because he can't decide the game, but it does decide the game if you don't call a foul on a potential game-winning shot. That is deciding the game. It's not deciding the game by blowing the whistle when it is a foul. Now, if you blow the whistle when there's not a foul because you expect there's going to be a foul, because you see a reach and so you just assume there's contact, that's deciding the game. When you ignore obvious contact and don't call a foul, that is not if you call a foul when it is a foul, that is not deciding the game. The player has decided the game by fouling. You have just decided, and they're never consistent with it. You see refs call fouls at the end of games. You see them not call fouls at the end of games. So players don't know. So Dylan Darling gets hip checked. Should have had 2 free throws. We don't know if he's going to make them. He's a freshman. Who knows? He may have bonked both of them. He hasn't been shooting particularly well. But let's say he does hit one, and they win because there's 0.1 on the clock. Why couldn't they just catch a fucking break, man? This team is not getting any breaks, from any angle. Just can't. They come out tonight and Justin Powell hits his first 3 3-pointers, and you're like, fucking A, he's already hit more than he hit against Utah when he shot 12. If he hit those shots against Utah, one of those fucking shots against Utah, they beat
just
Utah.
One.
But
just one. We're not greedy.
It's the same open threes. It's not like Utah was forcing them into tough threes. They were just missing open threes.
No, they were.
It was so frustrating. But yeah, tonight, I gotta say, we were a bit worried about Mohamed Gay earlier in the season. He hadn't seemed to kind of progress, but lately he has really looked like a superstar. He is looking like that dude on offense.
Yes.
What the plays, the kind of the diversity of ways he could score in the post right now. He's using his hook. He could face up and score. If he's deep, if he's within 10 feet, he's a bucket. It's a bucket. It's happening. He's not going to be stopped unless he's fouled. He's shooting 79% from the free throw line, which now I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive in getting fouled, honestly, because his free throw stroke looks so much more consistent this year. Clearly worked on it. He's looking great. He just, really, his one bugaboo is turnovers right now. I think honestly, it's because he's getting so much attention. He's being asked to do so much. It's not your typical, big that's just catch it in the post and, turn it and scoring. He's facilitating from the post, and that'll lead to turnovers. Because really, honestly, like his passing is amazing. Like the things he's added, but the kind of probably the most impressive thing is the passing. Like he is a danger to double now. Like when Jabe and Andre come back, which Andre might not come back until the end of the month, I think, at this point, and then Jabe will probably another 2 weeks at least. When they come back, if teams want to double Mo and you have Andre, Jabe, Justin, and TJ standing out there waiting on the 3-point line, who are you going to double from? Like you have a bunch of 40% 3-point shooters standing on the 3-point line. That's going to be fun. That's going to be really, and plus, and then if they don't double, Mo's going to be a bucket. Like he's going to be automatic buckets. The way he's scoring around the rim right now. So and that's what even fucking pisses you off more is like these fucking injuries. Like we are not even seeing anything close to what this team can be. What we thought this team could be when we thought they could be actually better than they were last year. And now they could be better than they were last year, but it's going to take a lot. But I don't think the end result is not going to be any better. We can see them get better as they go along, but right now they're so hamstrung in a time of the season when they could be securing some really big wins. They're not getting them, and they got another potentially big one just because UNLV looks kind of like maybe they're a little bit better. Or they could be on the rise a little bit, but they're still sitting at right now 75, which that's a rise from where they started at 118. So a team that's definitely better than we thought at the start of the season. Now they haven't played anyone super crazy, but this game is tougher than we thought it was at the start of the year. And it also could potentially be a little bit better. It could be a win because I think they're calling it officially a neutral site game. Or I guess Ken Pom has a semi-home. I think that would be considered neutral in a net. So if somehow UNLV becomes a top 50 team, that would become a quad one. But this is a big game, and then after that they have Baylor, and after that they fly to Hawaii and they play some games there. Like this, they're not playing a home game again until around the new year. So it's just it's a tough. This stretch is tough. And they haven't gotten, not getting Boise State, who just looks better and better, and not getting Oregon or Utah. Like those are, and then having that Prairie View loss on there. Like the resume is dire. I don't like. You're right. At the point where I have to accept, let's just enjoy watching Mohamed Gay. Let's enjoy watching TJ Baba. Enjoy those moments. Enjoy Kimani Winsu, who looks like he's could be a fucking star. Just watch him develop over the year. Just enjoy some of that. And this team will almost certainly be better in January. It just sucks that maybe they're kind of torpedoing their chance to build a resume right now. And that's the bummer. But I still think this team's going to be super fun to watch in Pac-12 play. And they could definitely fuck some people up and ruin their seasons at some point.
Well, and they're
still going to be high, pretty high in net. So they're still going to be at times, when team are coming to Pullman, they're probably going to be a quad one opportunity. And so it's going to be a big game for a lot of teams. So it'll be like last year.
Yeah. I was going to say we tend to focus on the offense a lot, but I think the thing that's got me feeling, really good is that the defense is really rounding into shape. Like tonight, holding Northern Kentucky to, of course, the big number is, 47 points, but we love rate-based stats around here, and that worked out to 0.81 points per possession tonight, which was
how many possessions were there tonight? Did you see
58. Not 58. Very many. 58.
Dick Bennett beaming.
Yep.
Beaming.
Yep. So, the defense is really doing its thing. To kind of put that into context, one way to do it, I love looking at, the Ken Pom game plan where it shows you kind of how, each team did, against you. And it's like, okay, so, kind of looking, okay, this is the lowest points per possession that Northern Kentucky's had all year. Utah was their third lowest. Oregon, it was their sixth lowest. So, maybe kind of, actually one of their better performances, or sixth highest, or however that's written. But,
that was
second lowest.
In the last 5 games, the Oregon one is the one that's been not good. But
the
they really,
after
Prairie View, have really turned around the defense.
Yes. And I think the biggest thing that honestly is encouraging to me, is okay. So, again, you're kind of seeing, the points per possession turn around, and they're getting back to doing what they do, which is lock down around the rim. So you look, and again, some of that may be competition. So we don't want to read, too much into it, but they did, only allow Utah 39% on twos. Northern Kentucky was, 45.5% on twos tonight. And that was probably a lot of those were in the last 5 minutes of the game. Detroit Mercy, 37%, Eastern Washington, 38%. Obviously Oregon did a ton of damage in the paint, in the paint, particularly in the second half. But the other thing is, defensive turnovers are trending up. In the last 3 out of the last 4 games, the turnover percentage, on defense is over 22. It was 23.6 against Detroit, 25.1 against Utah, 22.4 against Northern Kentucky. Again, Oregon was the outlier here with a low turnover percentage of just like a shade under 17%. But, when your turnover percentages are up in the 20s, you're doing what you want to do. And WSU has really made a living the last couple of years. Really since Kyle Smith came. Really putting pressure on the ball and trying to generate turnovers on defense. And so it looks like that part's, coming into form as well. So, you love to see that. And then, of course, we had the tonight against Northern Kentucky, the bonkers, what'll definitely be the bonkers stat of the year, which is they rebounded 96.3% of Northern Kentucky's misses. So Northern Kentucky had a 3.7 offensive rebounding percentage. For context for people, like 20% would be really low.
And what was WSU's offensive rebounding percentage?
Yeah, 57.7%. Yeah. So
WSU was getting almost 60% of their own misses, and they were grabbing 96% of that is one of the most absurd rebounding margins you will see. That's just insane. Especially since Northern Kentucky was missing more shots. Although they might not have been because all the turnovers, but it was just, I don't even know what the raw number was.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Dan Dickow cited it at the end of the game, which will not surprise you. But it was a huge number, huge gap. So those things, you start putting those things together. You start feeling really good about where the team is going.
It was was 41-12 the rebounding.
There you go. So the defense is always going to be there, even as we get Jabe Mullins back and you get Andrei Akimovsky. Hopefully, the defense will still play, and then you hope that those guys add some offense, and all of a sudden you become very dangerous again. So, hopefully that's the deal. Hopefully that's how it goes. And look, like you, I mean, I still believe there's a ton of fun left in this year. And, the older I get, the less I worry about, results going exactly according to plan and just wanting to enjoy stuff. And it's like, the basketball team right now, I want them to come around. I want them to be enjoyable again. And I can see that potentially coming.
Well, and honestly, if you saw Miles Rice and Deshaun Jackson going out for at the start of the year and thought this was going to go as normal, then I know that we kind of probably undersold the losses a bit. But they're clearly just having they've been running with 7-man rotations pretty consistently. Maybe Carlos Rosario will play a few minutes, but really 7 strong. And I mean, at least what this injury stuff has done is they're going to be really deep when it comes back. When those players come back, because Mael is looking like someone who you can actually trust to play against Pac-12 teams. And then Kamani is looking like a guy who legit might force his way into the starting lineup at some point this year.
Yeah.
Like he played 32 minutes.
He started the second half tonight.
Yeah, he started the second half.
Yep. They went with him instead of Darling in the second half.
Which honestly, like, that makes sense because Kamani could still run the point if they want Darling to run the point. And I guess they really like, we talked about point of attack. They really like Darling's point of attack defense. And, you know, maybe Kamani isn't in there yet, but he does have the size and athleticism and length. Like, oh my God, he did where he got that technical foul at the end. But yeah, this is our fucking guard that caught a ball under the rim and went up 2 feet real quick and dunked the ball with 2 hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what kind of fucking athlete do we have here? Like, he's crazy. And he's got great vision, great passer. You know, his shot's definitely a work in progress, but he's real creative going to the rim. And he's athletic. He's got he had 2 dunks today. Like he could finish like a big around the rim, and he's fucking brave, man. Like I'm surprised. I'm always surprised that his possession percentage is lower, but I think it's because he doesn't turn the ball over. Like he's cut he's cut down his turnovers recently a little bit more. And that's you know, a lot of freshmen you see with higher usage is because their turnovers get high. But yeah, I think he's definitely a guy, like, by the end of the season, he could be a top 5 guy on the team. And then going into next season, he could be the fucking guy on the team.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you could see right away the potential. It was just a matter of how fast he was going to come around. And it's sure looking like he's coming around real fast.
Well, both him and Mael, I think there was a bit of an adjustment to like the America game, I guess, or something. But they both, like, in the last 3 games have just looked so much better. It's so much more confident and comfortable. And so, yeah. And Mael is flopping, but he knows how to flop. You know, he's learned from his footballing compatriots in France. Like, he doesn't get called for the flop call. Like, he knows what to do. And so, yeah, like, cause Mael drew like 3 fouls on Brendan Carlson in his like limited minutes up until that point. And like, it was more him than Mo fouling out Brendan Carlson against Utah. Like it was, and by the way, like, these last 2 games, you talk about the defense, Brendan Carlson did absolute jack shit, 7 points, I think. And then this like all world scorer, for Northern Kentucky, Marquise Warwick, he didn't have a field goal until like the game was out of hand. Like, I think he had 3 points up until less than 5 minutes of play. And I think like TJ was a bit bothered that he got to 10 by the end. Yeah. But they really, you know, we always see this, like, especially because the teams have to kind of, Kyle has had a new team to start every year. And we always see like a bit of a lull in the defense to start, and then they really come around, and it's like they get the buy-in. And I think the buy-in's there. Like, we can win games with the defense. Like, if we play good defense, it doesn't matter. You don't have to hit every shot. Now, if you're playing Utah, you still have to hit some fucking shots. Like, but
maybe just like one more 3. Maybe just like
one more out of the 30. Maybe hit one more out of the 30 that you shot. But yeah, so I don't know, like, this team, I think we're going to have some fun, like, big wins this year. And maybe like really make some noise in conference play. But it's just like right now they're just so depleted, and it's just like, goddamn, like they're so snake bitten, like a fucking witch cursed them or some shit. Like, it's just nothing could go right for them. Except for that, maybe that Detroit Mercy game was like the only game where it's like everything went right. But you know, whatever. But, you know, we transition to another team that is actually having quite a lot go right for them this season. And that is the women's basketball team, who still have not figured out how to play the first quarter. Consistently plays some god awful first quarters. Like, it's incredible. Like, how consistent they are, and just like, it's mostly the offense. It was the defense sometimes too, like just their inability to play the first quarter, but their ability to bounce back and come back and just destroy teams in the final three quarters is so impressive. And now they're sitting at 7-1 after the biggest comeback in program history tonight, beating Portland.
How about that?
Being down by as much as 19 in the second quarter, and coming back and beating them 69-63 in Portland. I couldn't tell you Portland if they're good or anything, to be honest. But not losing is good, and a road game is always like going to be tough. But they just do this. They come back and they, it was the same even with against Montana. They started really slowly. I think the game was like tied, or Montana had like a small lead after the first quarter, and then they ended up blowing them out by 20. Same with South Dakota State. South Dakota State, I think it was like 14-3, and they ended up blowing them out by 20. Like, so they start slow, against some teams. If the teams are good, that could kind of kill them. But, they came back. It's funny. They've played two WCC teams on the road now. And, they started slowly. Looked like they were going to lose in both games, San Francisco and Portland. And they won them both 69-63. So I guess they're consistent in that regard. But yeah, they're sitting at 7-1. And the only loss to BYU and Hawaii, which, probably doesn't really harm you in any way too badly. They somehow were awarded the champions of the tournament, whatever. But they got
yeah, that was weird.
But yeah, 7-1. And they have a chance. I think, Houston, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Jackson State left the non-conference. They do have UW in that early conference game on Sunday, which I don't know if you're going, Jeff, but I'm going to the game. So are you going to the game?
I don't think so. But we'll see.
All right. Well,
maybe.
Boo.
Maybe.
Yeah. It tips off right an hour after the Seahawks game starts, so should be interesting when we're driving back from that game. Probably won't be very much fun. Might have to go get something to eat somewhere before we go back south. But yeah, so yeah, definitely excited to see them in person. I'm excited to see kind of, the diversity in like the scoring that they've brought. Cause Tara didn't even have a good game. They only had 3 points against, Portland, but you had, Estera Tahina had 12 points, Bella with another 14. She's just kind of you're getting 14 to 20 from her every game at this point. Johanna had a nice night. She had 13. Charlize had her 15. You just they just seem to have more scoring this year. They'll be a bit more fun to watch. And I think their defense is still there. And they haven't started quite like this. They started a bit like this and they got, but that was all conference play, in 2020. But, they really building up, some wins in the non-conference that they weren't able to do last year. And that's nice to see. And now they're, kicking off with UW on Sunday, which, a game they've won in Seattle, the last couple of years. And I would like to see us beat the Huskies. So, please go ahead and do that. Charlize and Bella and team, go ahead and knock off the Huskies, get to what would be 8-1, and keep it rolling. And then they're 2-0 on true road games this year. So make it 3-0.
Yeah, that'd be good. I like that.
Yeah. So, also we got to mention, before we go, obviously volleyball, went to their 7th straight NCAA tournament and, stepped up, won the first round match again, which they have won pretty regularly. They get to at least the second round pretty much almost every time we get the tournament. But they really ran into a really, really good team in the second round in San Diego, a team that has only lost once all year, had only lost 11 sets in 25 matches, a 25-match win streak coming into that. So honestly, it was pretty impressive. WSU was able to put as much pressure as they did on them. Won a set. They pressured them on a couple other. They really San Diego took over in the fourth set and won pretty handily. But the first 3 sets were hard fought, and I think like it was just kind of a bad luck of the draw. It seems like San Diego maybe didn't get a 1 seed because they are a smaller conference team, but they definitely looked every bit. They've been ranked in the top 3 all year. And they looked every bit of that. They had some
they did
really talented players and really deep players, and they could scramble well. They would hit just insanely hard on the attack on hitters, and like it was just it would come through and our players would it seems like would hit just absolute perfect, and they would dig it and they would return it. And it would just be a fucking laser coming back. And
I was gonna say, and then they'd set up one of those killer hitters on the left and just send this like missile, down into our defense. It was really impressive. I kept thinking like, well, how good can San Diego actually be? It's San Diego, right? Like this is the West Coast Conference. Like we're not talking about Gonzaga basketball. Well, actually kind of that's what it looked like. Like they were really, really damn good. And, we competed our butts off, but it was definitely, we were definitely not at that level. And no shame in that. So they fought hard. They scrapped, like you said, they got a set. Most teams did not get that against San Diego. And, the fourth set was even pretty nip and tuck for a while. And then I think it was like 15-14 or 16-14 or something. And then San Diego pulled away from there. And I don't know. It just, every once in a while you see a team and they just sort of like, I'm not saying they gave up. They didn't give up, but they just sort of the feeling like, this probably isn't going to be our day. Like at some point that sort of sets in, and it kind of felt like that's what happened there as the fourth set kind of ran out. I mean, they sure were trying, but there was a little bit of a vibe like, this other team's really, really good. I'm not sure we can do anything to stop it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bummer. But yeah, another great season for WSU volleyball.
Yep.
They finished third in the conference, which is an incredible feat.
Yeah,
it's such
huge.
a difficult conference, so stacked with teams. I got to watch them sweep UW at home. That was super fun. They really, honestly, getting a set from San Diego was really fucking impressive. I don't want to downplay that. Like, that was only 12th set they had given up in fucking 26 matches. Like 26 matches. They had only given up 12 sets. They had swept at least most of those. Like it was, I think 2 of those were in one match. So they had swept the other 16. And so just like incredibly good team that they lost to. And not to mention they were playing them on the road. It was like a true road game. Like they were playing them on San Diego's home court. San Diego was hosting. That's also why, winning some of those early season non-conference ones are so huge, because if WSU could have been a top 16 team and been hosting, that would have been huge for them. So hopefully, they got the huge news that all 5 of their players that were seniors, including Pia Timmer and Magda, that had a chance to return using next year, they're all coming back. So they're going to be stacked again next year. They're losing one senior. She's very good, Laura. But I think they're going to be awesome again next year. They got almost the whole band coming back together. So it'll be a fun year again. So volleyball, great program. Awesome to see the run that they just continue to go on, and something that we hope for so many other, especially basketball programs to have such a run. Yes. But yeah, Jeff, I guess, let me just check actually, you know what? We're an hour and 40 minutes in. We're not answering questions.
No,
Marcus on Twitter. I know you had a lot of conversation about luck. We'll get into luck again at some point. We already talked about the bad injury luck. But the in-game luck is a whole different thing. But yeah, we'll talk about that. I mean, it'll come up at some point, you know. But yeah, so if you want to follow us, I'm at the Craig Powers on Twitter. Jeff is at Pod versus Everyone. And then if you want to follow us on Instagram, I'm at Craig W. Powers. Jeff is at NewsCoug. That's NUSS Coug. You can find me on TikTok at Craig W. Powers as well. I love the ticks and the talks. But yeah, that's all. If you want to send us an email, any questions, and you know, maybe sometime we'll look at them. Podcast versus everyone at gmail.com. Please rate us 5 stars and subscribe in your favorite service there. Please do that. And hey, if we showed up in your if you're a Spotify listener and we showed up in your Wrapped, go ahead and tweet at us. You know, that's fun. I had someone tag me on Instagram with that we showed up in their Wrapped. I'm like, that's fun. That's really cool. We were like your 3rd most listened to podcast this year. That's awesome.
It is.
So yeah, if you're a Spotify user, which I know it's a small percentage of the listeners, but if you are, let us know and, you know, show us your Wrapped with us in it. We'd enjoy that. But yeah, so Jeff, I guess with all that's left to say is go Cougs.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get vaccinated.
Do it.